Good afternoon and welcome to our Saturday Sports Special. This is our weekend edition of the Saturday Sports Special. Well, on this weekend's program, we will be having a special guest, uh, former Commissioner of Prisons, also former sports administrator himself, speaking of Mr. Ashley Ram Folks. And we'll be looking at, the recent state of violence, especially among young people, and how we can use sports and other recreational activities as a vehicle to deter that sort of delinquent behavior among our young people. So as soon as Mr. Folks is on, we will get the program going. Certainly, it has been riveting over the past few weeks in particular, and more so during the whole pandemic, and rightly so. Some people were saying that because the lack of the opportunity for these young people to exert their energies, otherwise, we are seeing that. But albeit, it appears that there is a lot of work to be done and a lot needed in terms of the support. And we'll be talking to Mr. Ramfolks and others about that situation. So, and just to let you know, before we go into that, that the national championships, that the Grenada National Championships track and field, albeit one day, normally it's on a weekend, well, Saturday, Sunday, but this time it's just one day. It's on at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium in the nation's capital. So that's one of the things that's actually happening now. That's the national championships, which is almost like the, well, character trials to some and selection for other national teams, So whether it's Commonwealth Games, whatever it is, they use that as a basis for our national athletes find for selection for those national teams. But primarily around this time, it's also for the Carifta Games because it's twin with the Carifta Trials, and most of the competitors are within the age for Carifta. So that's the other thing about it. Well, it goes like that. And just to let you know that we also have a number of our local athletes who are also participated in the Carifta Trials in Jamaica. They will not be able to make the Jamaica team, but their school, they're representing their schools, whether it's Edwin Allen, St. Jago, Kingston College, and they are also participating in the Carifta Trials in Jamaica. There were some very impressive performances from some of these Grenadians yesterday, and I'm certain today will be no exception. It's unfortunate that they cannot be in Grenada participation in the national championships, but it may be, it's all because of school. So yeah, they are able to. Unlike the U.S. college system where it's basically into spring break, so someone like Nazio John, for example, who's participating, he's actually in Grenada and participating. That's an exception. But those in high school in Jamaica, it's business as normal. So we wait on Mr. Folks, who should be on any time now, momentarily. He should be on, and we should have him to discuss. As you know, Mr. Folks has always been, a street talker, and they say, some may not like his views on certain issues, but he has a strong conviction on what he is saying and what he believes. And no doubt he will be one to, expect, well, as we normally would say, he does not mix, the matters. Okay. So Mr. Folks will be with us soon. I just had a word with him, and he should be on anytime from now, and we should get the program started. I just hope that he still doesn't have much of a problem. Let me just make sure that everything is okay on his side, and that he, can get ready to roll as we are ready. Yeah, so that's it. So yeah, And as you've been seeing, and part of the whole discussion too will be on the recent spate of violence, as we indicated, among our young people. And you who are watching, listening, whatever, you can also chime in with your comments. It's important that we tackle, begin to tackle those issues. We cannot just be saying that that's life, they're kids, etc., etc. We have to find the root problems, okay? And if need be, we root it out, we amend, we take care of these things, because in the long run, we may be regretting that we did not do anything. We have to save this generation. A lot of people may want to compare their time with this time, and and put things in context, and whether it's social media, blah blah blah, all these sort of things. The fact is, it's a problem, and it needs addressing. And on our program, we're looking at how we can use sports and other recreational activities as that means of dealing with those issues. And certainly, it's very, very important, because as we saw that, and we know of countless people who have used sports as a means of, overcoming challenges, whether it's poverty, whatever it is like that. So, and no doubt, this issue is no exception. How we can use sports and other recreational activities, and I say other recreational activities because it doesn't necessarily have to always be sports, right? It can be other recreational activities. So I'm seeing some great things there. I see Mr. Folks is just angling up his camera, and as soon as is completed there, we will join Mr. Folks live in wherever his location is. Yeah, we'll get him. I think he's just organizing himself to make sure that everything is okay, his lighting and everything. As soon as that is taken care of, we'll bring him on and discuss that very, very important issue of youth violence. And the question may be asked is, why Mr. Folks? Well, Mr. Folks, a former sportsman himself, represented Grenada in football, in cricket. He also plays badminton, and all other sports, draft, dominoes, chess, those tabletop games. Yeah, he's part of that. And then as a former sports administrator himself, he was president of the Grenada Football Association for many years, various terms as well, and served in various capacity, from a national coach, So he's well into the realms of things regarding sports. And then, on the other hand, a former prison commissioner. So he would have had dealings with, youth, as they say, juvenile, who are incarcerated and all these sort of things, and how we were able to deal with those things, Not that we're hoping that these kids are incarcerated, but certainly he will have his views on how we can handle those things, how he, as former commissioner of prisons, were able to handle those young people and things like that. So these are the sort of things we'll be dealing with. And again, I'm saying sports is the aspect we use in as that vehicle, By the way, folks, you may see that my program is coming from North Dakota today. Yeah, that's, I don't even want it. That's way out. It's like, probably like Siberia, massively cold, I can tell you, right? I call it AKA Siberia, so that's where I am this weekend. Yeah, Mr. Folks is somewhere warm in St. George's. Let me see if I can add Mr. Folks onto our program and say, good, well, it's afternoon wherever he is. Mr. Folks, I think you're alive now. Let me see. Yeah, you're alive. Well,
thank you.
Yeah. Oh, well, we get in the black side, so I think you may have to just flip your device. I believe it's a phone you're using, so you may have to flip it so I can get. Yeah, just flip it, and we'll get it. to take out the black side of yes. All right. Okay, let's see if that can. Oh, ah, so he's off. I was hoping that he would have been able to flip the vote so we could get it, but he's off. But he will be back. Yeah, he'll be back. Good afternoon, Martin. Martin, good afternoon to you. Certainly. I'll probably at some stage I'll try to get some folks to come on to give their views as well. But certainly it's a very important topic. The folks should be back on momentarily so we can get going. I think his device, he has to get his device a bit stable, and then we will, get going. Yeah, so I was indicating that Mr. Folks was the person chosen because of these factors, as indicated. These factors are very important. Okay, so he's back on now. So once the device is stable, we should be able to have Mr. Folks on. The folks, if you can just see if you can have it just settle a bit so that, yeah, have it formed so we can get it going. I was telling you about the, because we're seeing the black sides, the black screen on the side, I think it's because of the position you have your device. There's horizontal and there's vertical,
So which way to have is horizontal? Let me see.
Yeah, that is the better way. That is the better way, Mr. Folks.
Okay. That
is the better way. And I should be able, I think there's too much light in the back, so you may just have to
All right, cool. So I have to get...
Right, so you have it there now. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So okay. I have you there, Mr. Folks. You just need to line yourself up. And, line yourself up and be good to go. In terms of talking, I want to make sure I see your head, your face in particular, right? And we should be good to go. Just keep it from there. So as I was indicating at the start of the program.
All right, hold on. Let me just get a brace so I could just.
Yes. All right. So while he gets that brace there, we will. So yes, folks. So if you're listening and you want to chime in, please feel free to do so. It's a very important topic, and I think whether you're a parent, whether you just a member of the public and you want to share your views on those issues, certainly I'll give Mr. Folks the opportunity to give at the start to see what it is, and then you will be able to share your views on those things. All right. Good day to you also, Rudian from Toronto. In Canada. Rudian, I'm so close to you, but so far, just probably about an hour away from the Canadian border, but some hours away from Toronto, because Canada is very big. Yeah, so let's go back now to Mr. Ashley Ram Folks, our special guest this afternoon, who, and by the way, folks, Mr. Folks is no stranger to the program, albeit his last sojourn was October of 2020. Wow, that's a long time. October of 2020 was the last time Mr. Folks was actually on the program, and he's joining us today to talk to us about that very, very important issue, as I indicated, has to do with, how we can use sports and other recreational activities as a vehicle to deter such delinquent behavior from especially our young people. And it comes in light of, the recent spate of violence among young people. We have been seeing so many, especially on social media. Some may argue that in our time, as they like to compare, there wasn't social media. But we can also argue that in our time, I don't think we had such delinquent behavior, there were behavior, and bad behavior and bad boys. But, not what we're seeing there. And, just a day or two, I was speaking to a police officer who said that they had an operation among some of the young people just a few days ago. And the amount of weapons they were able to retrieve from those youngsters. It's becoming atrocious. And if we do not do something about it, I am sorry that it may be too late. So, Mr. Folks, welcome to our program once again. And it's a pleasure having you. And certainly I want as I said, as a former commissioner of prisons, former sports administrator, and even before sports administrator yourself, as a former sportsman representing Grenada, football, cricket, as captain as well, and as I indicated, other recreational activities, dominoes, draft, chess, badminton, just name it. You're part of that. So all of that we want to take into context of how we can get young people involved. But first of all, your views, Mr. Fawkes, on what has been happening over the past few weeks in particular.
Thank you very much. Thanks. I'm glad to be on your program again. Basque and listeners, we have a real problem with the youths in our society. But I tell you, it is not just the youth in the society, it is the society that giving the youth the opportunity to behave. Not that they're bad, no, they're not bad, they're not that bad. But a lot of youths behave bad or attempt to behave bad because they're going to be on social media. Because somebody going to film it and put it on YouTube. Because somebody going to do it and they get, what should I say? They become quote unquote famous because they confront a policeman or because they do something foolish. You hardly ever see any positive thing going out on social media in them way. So a lot of it have to do with the youth want an outlet, and something stupid and negative, they're going to get an outlet on social media all over the place. Think about it.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with that. As you have mentioned, I have been commissioner of prison. I met so many young people in the prison. And I'll tell you what, they're not bad, they ain't bad at all. When they wake up to reality and they realize they're in prison, I used to have to be like the father, comforting them, whether it's crying, whether they want to see their mother, whether they whatever, they're not all that bad. But they do something foolish to get quote unquote recognition. And it is the social media and the way we peddle every negative that happens in our society on social media. It gives them, like the youth I'm speaking about, an opportunity, a leeway, a gateway to behave bad. But in bad, trust me.
So, well, it's interesting to hear that from you, Mr. Fawkes, and certainly, and it's also, from a personal point of view, because, many times people share their opinion, which is just an opinion, not anything regarding facts. But you have also come from an area where, some years ago, there was, the issue of, delinquent, I should say, behavior, because again, it's mainly among young people in your community, and you had to use your, whether it's negotiating skills, whether your skills as a former tactician in terms of football, as a captain and a coach, etc., to bring peace in those communities and things. Share with us how you were able to deal with those things, Mr. Fawkes.
Well, first of all, the community I live in, we are born, grow, and most likely in moving a place is Fontenoy. But when you look at Cherry Hill and Grand Mall, we are one community. Fontenoy United, based in these three villages. So I hate to say point of Fontenoy. My community comprises of Cherry Hill, Fontenoy, Grand Mall. We are just one big playing field. Since after they build the stadium and take up all this space in Queen's Park, we play in Grand Mall. And our team, as I said before, comprises of people from these three villages, and it's a very close-knit community. So when it reached to a point where, quote unquote, members of the community fighting against themselves, I was taken aback. But you better believe people were looking to be on social media and looking to get recognition in the wrong way. And I've been old enough, I've been around enough to able to get down and meet what they call bad boys, but in bad, meet the bad boys in the community and speak to them and whatnot. And at this point in time, I'm happy to say we are basically one people. And I have met it as commissioner of prison. I have met so much youths who thought they were bad boys in the prison. And I had to comfort them like a father because they couldn't handle the prison. All of a sudden, they realize somebody telling you when you're going to eat, when you're going to the toilet, if you're going to the toilet, when you're going to do this, when you're going to sleep, when your light's going to be off. You gave away your control and you were being controlled. And I had to be like a counselor, a father to these young men that didn't understand what losing your freedom really was like, you know? So it's something that and the media now, 2013, at that time when I was in the prison, from around that time, the social media has advanced tenfold. So I can imagine more nonsense is happening to get recognition. And as I said, you hardly ever notice anything positive coming out on social media. The negative ones do, and they get mileage in so doing.
Mm-hmm. So the big question now, Mr. Folks, is that how then can we use and start to, seriously use sports, the recreational activities as we alluded to get these young people more engaged. Most times, as you know, these things do happen because young people are not engaged. I mean, you have scores of young people, as they say, to just use some local phrases, liming by the bank, liming by the bus terminus, and these sort of things like that. So, as we speak, there is the National Track and Field Championships, and I'm certain that that is not a calling for young people, except those who probably participate in terms of young people, in terms of spectators, for example. It probably has to be the diehard track and field fan who will probably go and sit down at the stadium. Okay, you will probably find those kids, as they say, hanging out around the market area and these sort of things, hot spots and these sort of things like that. So how do we? And I mean, it's a challenge now, but how do we try to attract these and get them engaged in these sporting activities?
Well, the honest truth is, Basque, getting them engaged is something society, people like me and you, the politicians, the teachers, will have to sit down and come up with a ways and means. How do we beat back the social media, the quick, quote unquote, negative recognition? I call it negative recognition. You're a bad boy in front of police. You're gone viral. Is how do we get them to not really face reality, but the positive things settle down into it. Whenever I go to New York, I stay by my daughter, and she has two sons. One is about 10, one is about 5. And they live on the iPad. They had to go to school. But when I was going to school and school finished, I go to the park. I play in the backyard. In Fontenoy, there was a place we call the Sanyard. Even when I started walking, I used to scull from work just to go and play cricket. It was playing whole day. There would have been sport in that backyard all day. Forget weekend. You didn't have time to eat. No, there is no sport. Because that child who is, and I'm talking about my grandchild now who is 3, 4, he is on his iPad. His father would have to bring him to the playing field. But he can't wait to come out of the playing field to be on the iPad. If the father didn't bring him a day, the iPad. Nice? And we all do it. He has his iPad, his brother has his iPad, and all the children have that, where they get quote unquote entertainment instantly. They have to leave and pack up and do that and change clothes to go to the park. As a result, the park has suffered, the games have suffered. You know, you hardly find young people leaving the iPad at home. You ask any 9 out of 10 children, ask them what they want for Christmas. An iPad, some electronic, something. It wouldn't be a football, it wouldn't be a bat. No. And it is the kind of challenge that you get. Unfortunately, when this same child is playing with his iPad, he cannot be supervised all time, all day. There are so much negative that would come in on that program, on the side of the program. My grandson, the one at 5 or 4 years, he could be watching the iPad. And who knows if he's not seeing something nude, if he's not seeing something negative, because he lives on his iPad. I didn't know, or we did not know anything about iPad and whatnot. I knew of the playing field. I knew of Queen's Park. I knew of Grand Mall. And when I finished eat and I didn't do my work, I've been in one of those parks. They have a different challenge. They have a different challenge. And as I said, that social media has a lot of negative. And the child who is, what should I call it, who want to show, we just call it show off, but they want recognition. They would see negative things and do negative things. It is a challenge in today's society, big one.
But where therefore, Mr. Folks, lies the responsibility of parents? Is there a lack of responsibility, or parents have given up their responsibilities? Something is lacking there.
Unfortunately, I disagree. Unfortunately, I disagree.
Mr. Folks, I'm not seeing you. I'm not seeing you clearly.
Sorry, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Are you seeing me now?
Yes, I hope so. Yeah, I'm seeing you. Yeah, you were saying you disagree.
Okay, I could adjust it to this.
Yeah, that's good.
You see the best there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am not saying that the parent has given up the responsibility, because the parent 50 years ago, how many years ago, the difference between that parent now and the one now and the parent today, with the 5-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 15-year-old, is that that parent didn't have to be monitoring that child on every minute. No, you almost had to, you don't know which site you're going to go on. You left him on the site with a dinosaur. But by the time you turn your back, he gone on a nude site. And when you think you're coming across by the kitchen, he gone back on the dinosaur site. We went in the backyard playing cricket. We went in the road playing football. And that is the challenge. It's not that in my time or in your time, we were better children. We are the same children. We are the same children. But the environment has changed, and changed rapidly. And I'll tell you what, as a result of environments like that, it becomes not person-oriented. When I was growing up, I needed a friend to play, because I'm playing cricket or playing football or playing tennis or playing something. So I always needed a friend, a companion to play with. Now, a child, especially a single child, think about it. He has his iPad. He don't need anybody to get entertainment with. He gone into his iPad. And that selfishness becomes ingrained as the child grows. Think about it. He's not going to play with anybody. He's not playing with anybody. the parents, sometimes things are too tight. They have to be doing that, either whether they're going on and to work, or you doing this, or they have to be preparing a meal. The child is on his iPad. They cannot monitor it. As I said, maybe up to 10, 15 years ago, that child would have been in the backyard playing cricket, playing something. That is one of the challenges we have.
Well, yes, I do, and there will be those who may argue otherwise, because as you said too, we had the extended family as well. So even if mom or dad not there, there was the auntie or the big sister or the big brother who you know kept an eye to ensure that things are in order. Okay. Nowadays we don't have the sort of extended family in one nuclear system. Everyone for themselves, auntie with their own household, uncle with his own household, and even the big sister and the big brother, they out on their own. As we know, growing up, it was a household, and where everyone, looks after everyone. So there were always eyes upon eyes, as you will say. Now, and as you indicated, the challenges are such that the mobile devices and things like that are in control. And as rightly said, certainly you ask a child what gift you want, and is certain is either an iPad or Samsung phone or iPhone or whatever it is, but it's a device that at least they can get on to the internet and keep connected and keep things. So I'm saying, therefore, what else are you suggesting? Because there are so many challenges, Mr. Folks, out there. The challenges are tremendous. So how do we combat these challenges? We are coming up against so many things. I'm trying to figure out so many things we are coming up against, but we need to find solutions. So how do we overcome these challenges?
Okay. As a parent, my children are grown, but I have some beautiful grandchildren, and I'm extremely close to them. Right? I have some beautiful grandchildren. I have spoken to the parents over and over, over and over. I've spoken to the parents in relation to giving the children love. You cannot try to bully a child because you are the parent. You have to give the child the kind of love now we're talking about. My mother didn't have to give me all that love because we had less chances of breaking away. No, I'm going to say break away. I'm talking about following a negative. There are so many more negatives now than in my time. There are so many more negatives now than in your time because of quote unquote the internet. A lot has to do with the internet. It's difficult to monitor your child as to, as I said, what he watches or what she watches and what she doesn't watch. You follow? In my time growing up, where I go and play and to whom I would play, to who I would play with, my mother had that control. No, it's not that they go out by the neighbor and play at the go out there. No. It's as I said, it's on that iPad. As you have said, ask anyone of them what they want for a present. Is an iPhone or whatnot. And they know the phone and the iPad more than you and I do. The older generation, they have to be taught the iPad by 5-year-old. They know it. And as I've said so much time again, it is more negative than positive. But I advise all parents, you could win your children over. Trust me. I have won mine over, and my grandchildren are the same. Love. We know we have the authority. We could bully them. We could beat them, but we're going to lose. If you want to bully them and beat them every day, you lose the war. You have to give them love. You have to show them that you care. And you have to sit down and talk to them and reason with them. As you start giving instruction, I tell you don't do that, do this, boom, boom, boom. He or she hides from you and do what they want to do. But you have to reason. I'm advising this strongly. The parents have to show them not just love, a lot of love. Reason with them. And the negatives, you have to reason that with them. Why they shouldn't do that, why they should do that, what you have to do a lot. I did it with my children and I thought it worked. A child, 10 years, thereabout, always grow, always look forward to the best. Maybe it's a plane they want. I'm not talking about plane, me and talking about toy plane. You ask them what they would like when they grow up. And they want this car and they want that. And you have to hold them on that. Okay, if you want a car like that one, then you have to go to school. You have to do well in school. You don't want to do it, but you might be able to look in your community. My community have quite a few. And you look at someone who maybe drinking too much. And I used to do it. I said, do you want to be like Tom? Tom, you realize Tom was drunk yesterday. And Tom so-and-so. I want to have Tom getting breakfast. Do you want to be like that? No. They don't want to be like that. Nice? I say, if you don't want to be like Tom, then you have to go to school. You have to listen to mommy. So you compare and contrast. You have to show them people who things might be tight with. They know that. They don't want to be like that. They want to be like that. They want to be like mommy. They want to be like this. If you have to do that, this is what you have to do. And you stick them on it on a regular basis. You have to do your schoolwork. Oh, look, you come yesterday evening, you didn't do your schoolwork. You want to be like daddy? Daddy used to do his schoolwork. You have to do it. So it's that kind of positive. I am one parent. For me to flog, capital punishment, flog my children, they had to do something really, really repeatedly wrong. I used to win them over by reasoning. And I used to forgive them a lot, even when they needed licks, to say, no, when you grow up, nobody even talking to you like that, so and so, so and so, so and so. So I am advising parents, as you start, first thing is the whip or the belt or whatever, you lose the battle. You're getting your child violent. You're getting your child to believe violence is a solution. Because you have authority to beat a child. But isn't that violent? Think about it. I go and I meet somebody in town, blah, blah, blah. They didn't do me anything and I beat them. I take a piece of wood and I hit them, blah, blah, blah. They say I was very, whip or belt. They say I was very violent. Your child come home and something he or she didn't do. And you take that same whip or belt and beat a child. Isn't that violence at the same time? It might be corrective violence, but it is. And you have to avoid that. I believe the tongue. I believe speaking. I did a lot of that even when I was in the prison, I could tell you that. When I was in the prison, I made that point maybe on your program before. When I went to the prison in 2013, I think, 12, 13, I met a situation where the magistrate used to sentence people to Richmond Hill Prison and ordered, I'm using the word ordered, that they get 6 strokes, 7 strokes. From the day I reached, I say it would never happen under my watch. Never, ever. A big man, you're beating them? I mean, that is out of order. Magistrates in Grenada, I hope they stop doing it. Because I never, and would have never, and nobody could have get me to do it, to flog a big man. It's so close to slavery. And this is what I found. I didn't used to flog my children unless it, you're something like they repeatedly wrong. And I go in a job where the magistrate is ordering me to flog a big man. So flogging is a last resort, the last resort. Reason with them, reason and get them to do what you have to do. And I believe, I mean, I meet it in prison, and then again, one of the points that could have reached home to me is that, remember, I was a prisoner at some point. I was in solitary confinement in the jail, the same jail that I came back and was commissioner of. I was a prisoner in that jail. And I always thought, boy, if somebody to make that mistake and hit me in that jail when I was a prisoner, I would have sorry for that person. Nice. So when I become the commissioner and the magistrate directed that Tom Jones gets 6 strokes, I said, not in my prison. Never. I'm walking off on the job and I will walk off with a placard demonstrating before I flog anybody. And there's a lot of things in society that I know it's wrong. Flogging a big man is wrong, regardless of where the magistrate or the judge get the authority from. It is wrong, totally wrong. Flogging a child is difficult, but an adult person, come on.
You know, I have to, to laugh there on that one. But going back to the whole issue of the technology, Mr. Folks, and I was just reading a comment from your good friend Lincoln Toro Deputy, but he's basically saying that the iPad and new technology are here to stay. It means, therefore, that we have to find a way to use technologies, even in getting young people to engage in sports. So it's not all that bad, but using the technology to ensure that we can get them engaged as well.
Well, if I came across as saying the technology is bad, then I've been misunderstood. The technology where it reached today, when you look, for instance, you need information. I used to have one big book called an encyclopedia, and anytime I want reference, I had to go through this book and find pages. No, I just Google that, bam. The technology is the best thing that has happened to society in relation being informative. So if I knock it or appear to knock it, it was not intentional. You know, we have to think it up technology, but like everything else, where there is good, you could find negative coming out of it. And at no time did I mean to knock technology. I am for it 100%.
Okay. We will get into some more. And I'm hoping to get just a short comment from a teacher, basically the teacher's perspectives, as we will say. But I just came across a comment there from Mr. Keith Ashby, who says that the lions have come home to roost. The problems stem back to us father. He says the rum shop is more important than the home, and gave some stats. I don't know how true it is, but says in Grenada there were 3,400 divorces and only 689 marriages over the last 5 years. Young men are crying out for a daddy, or crying out for daddy. And if the statistics are true, Mr. Folks, his comparison is that there are more divorces than marriages, and showing that it also has to do with the lack of a father figure, as some will say, in the home, because especially as it relates to young men in crisis.
It is a ticklish issue. I have been married so long I can't remember. Right? Seriously, and I never regretted marriage. Even before I was sexually active, I come from a mother who had 11 children, and my mother background is one I can't discuss on the radio. And I always look forward to meeting someone to marry and have my kids under one roof. I'm talking about long before I was sexually active, I wanted to meet someone who I would really like and marry. Because, as I said, I come from point, you hardly would have found two people that is married, especially the poor people, especially the ordinary people. No, you find, I have neighbors. They have a child here, 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 they have a child here. And when you hear the mother trying to beat that child, your son, so go and meet your father to show this. And I never liked it. I said, no, it is not fair. It is not fair. And I had my children with my wife, and they grew up in the same community because there's no way I go in Lansapina or go in there, forget it. I know I could have grown and build myself in Point, in Fontenoy, in the rural areas. And I'm so happy to say that the children grew up just like how I wanted them to, mixing in the community, doing that, but they got the best of education. And I not only gave my children the best of the education, I went out of my way with getting scholarships for people, other people in the village and beyond, to give them scholarships. I used to, with the Fontenoy United Club, we used to, Desiree Stevens, that was my #1 teacher, do extra classes with students, look at their grades, look at this, and do extra classes. And I, as I said, might have said before, not this program before, I spent my money and go out to colleges and whatnot and make sure and ensure that poor people's children get a better education. And that had to start with going to school. There was a no-no, even though at that time I had Fontenoy United and doing this and doing that, they had to go to school. I didn't get chance. I didn't get chance to go to school. And every time I talk about school, there are some people, you know, you never wish people bad. But when I tell people I have gone to school, I never, ever reach, I never go secondary school, but I have never come as quote unquote, call it low, third. I've never come as low as third in tests. You hear what I'm telling you? I used to be missing class. There is a lady named Miss Keppels, may she rest in peace, as I have said before. Miss Keppels, she son going to school every day. She mother she teacher. We didn't stand at 3, Bernard. And I'm missing class because I had to stay with my sister and beating all of them in tests. I come in first in tests all the time, all the time. Nice. As I've said, Dr. Radix and him, Peter Radix and him, I'm missing class and beating them boy and them in tests. When I reached standard 5, I met a guy named Cuthbert Nayak, an Indian guy. He didn't come from standard 3 because I got a skip from standard 3 to standard 6, to standard 5, sorry, and I go into scholarship class. And the teacher then, when I look back at it, I had to say the teacher say Cuthbert Nayak was beating me in tests. So I used to be coming second. Missing class still in scholarship class. Not in scholarship class. Standard 5 is supposed to be scholarship class. And why I had to join the revolution, I just tell you in advance, I jump in, you know. Why I must have pick up guns. Right now I have a flag, my flag. You pass tomorrow, you see my revolution flag on top of my house. Why I must have joined the revolution. Must. When I reached standard 5, I still missing class and whatnot. The teacher who used to give Cuthbert Nayak's lessons, well, he had Cuthbert Nayak coming first and I coming second. This man named Toots Sylvester. This man picked 15 people for scholarship. I come in first and second, and he picked me up. You hear what I tell you? He did not select me to go for scholarship. So with all due respect to Dr. Peter Radix, I'm missing class and beating he in tests. He's a doctor. Ramgon and fish. When I leave standard 5, he take me out, he picked 15, he didn't put me in scholarship class. And I went on to standard 7, coming first still. When I done, I go and fish. Yeah, I went and fish, I become a fisherman, just so. And I look back at it, and I say, but how could that man was from Green Street? And I'm sorry to say what I say now. I never did like tongue people. And I wonder if I still do, but not much people in tongue. Because these same people used to tell me when I go in the park, you're wild and stupid. I'm from Fontenay, you know, 5 minutes walk from tongue. And they used to call me wild and stupid. And when they called me wild and stupid, it reminded me of what the teacher did to me. I come in first in test and he picked 15 people to go for scholarship and I didn't go, so I went and fish. And I ensure and make sure that the rest of the people in my community and my village, don't talk about my children, would have never gone through that. That is the society. I met that man by the late and good friend, Dr. Excuse me, Dr. Lambert. Years after I met that man by Dr. Lambert, but he only lucky was by Dr. Lambert I meet him. I said, why you? Look at what you did. He said that was a system. He said that was a system. And I'll tell you what, I had a sister who was an older sister. She used to bring me to church all the time, every morning. And every morning, every Sunday that I go to church, I hear nice things in the church. Nice things in the church. And I find that it's fair. And when I go to school on Monday, I see something different in the school, the worst school in the world. What I used to call Palmer School, St. George's RC Boys School, the worst school anywhere in the world. Apartheid could have never have a school like that. Because we were all black. I've always been short. I ain't grow up yet. I ain't grown no tall, 5'6". And you have the McNeelys, they were tall. The Monroe, they were tall. But you know what? They were mulattoes. So they were in the front seat. And I peeping around their shoulder to watch a blackboard because I was black. St. George's RC Boys School is the worst school in the world. And you know what the irony is? The irony is that just on the hill above us, they going up Church Street, you had a school that had a white headmaster. And that white headmaster was not discriminating. He was getting the most scholarships because he's sending the best people. I met the same Tooth Sylvester as I tell you in Dr. Lambert's house once, and I just couldn't lick him up at that time. And he said that was the system. You know? So when I go to church on Sunday, I hear nice thing in the church. And when I come to school on Monday, the Hughes and the McNeely, I tell you, are very tall people. They sit on the front seat. The front seat was always reserved for the mulatto type people. And whether you're 5 feet or whatever, you stay on people on the thing. That is who I grew up. That is who I am. You follow? So I had to join the revolution to make sure and ensure. The revolution has, I tell you, past tomorrow, you've seen the flag up on top of my house. Yeah. What the revolution has done is liberated the ordinary man. That did not happen before. Never. It did not happen before. No. And that is who I am.
Okay. Well, Mr. Folks, so, well, it's interesting to know, and tomorrow, by the way, folks, will be, 43 years since the People's Revolution of 1979, March 13, 1979. But I'll come back to you, Mr. Folks, because I want us to continue on the issue and to go in now into the real issue of sports as it relates to that. But I want to get a perspective from a teacher on the whole issue of the violence and all of it. Well, a teacher / parent himself, and who probably may have first-hand knowledge of what is happening, what is taking place, and how, as a teacher of one of the schools, the secondary schools, they are hoping to curtail or to address those issues. Let me welcome Mr. Martin Alexander, no stranger to the program as well. Mr. Alexander, good afternoon to you. And your perspective, you have been listening for quite a while, your perspective on what has been happening.
All right. Good evening to your listeners. Good evening to Mr. Folks. Myself and Mr. Folks would have grown up in the same village. And the situation which he speaks of with the same issue with violence amongst the youth, I would have experienced that as a teacher at the Happy Hill Secondary School. And let me just give you my background. Former teacher at Happy Hill Secondary School, now teaching at the Grenada Boys Secondary School. So I would have experienced it as a student and experienced it as a teacher, right? Now, I agree with some of the points Mr. Folks is making in terms of the technology, but I think Mr. Keith Ashby would have raised a very important point of the fathers, right? Now, what we have going on in society is we have a breakdown in the family. And anytime you have a breakdown in the family, of course, you know there would be a breakdown in terms of society. We have to agree that we have more single parents now than ever before, right, Mr. Bascom? Mr. Fuchs, do we agree on that? We have more single parents now, right, ever than before, right? The influence of a male person, especially in a young man's life, and that is where we have the problem with the young men. It cannot be met, it cannot be done by a female, right? The influence of a male in a young man's life cannot be replaced by a mother, right? No. Here we have a situation, and I'll go back to Mr. Folks, where you started to speak about the technology. Here we have the technology replacing the sports, replacing the football, the basketball, and so forth, to the point where the games are now on the computer. So we can't say that they're not taking part in sports. They are taking part in sports, but it's on the device, right? So you might find, for example, students addicted to the PUBG and all of those things, right? Now, for the last 2 years, these students have been locked down, home, right? A lot of the students have been home and they have not had a chance to socialize. The only thing that they've had to socialize on is the same device, as Mr. Folks said. So for 2 years now, we have students home, right? And most of the homes, most of the parents don't have a relationship with their students. Mr. Bascom, let me give you a joke, right? I give my students an assignment. Listen to the assignment. When you get home, ask your parents, how was their day? Mr. Bascom, the resistance I got. So what? So you're crazy? So I gonna ask. So if I ask mommy that she'll cost me, she gonna ask me what I want. A simple assignment as ask your parents, how was their day? We had students were just resisting that, right? I gave them a week. The Friday, I went to the class and asked all those who asked their parents that question, what was the answer? And when you get some of the answers that some of these parents give the students, some of them got cursed. What is so-and-so asking me that? That's not your business. Some of the students were afraid to even ask their parents, how was their day? Imagine that. A simple thing as going home and saying, mommy or daddy, how was your day? Some students are afraid to even ask that question, right? So there's a breakdown in terms of parenting, and that is where the problem lies. The problem lies at home. Now, the students that are indulging in the deviant behavior, they did not learn that in the school. They did not learn that in the school. It came from home, and now it's showing itself in the school and in the public domain. We also have to be cognizant that students are under a lot of peer pressure. And as folks said, the social media, they want to be popular. You understand? It's like sometimes when you see the kind of videos that these kids are making, you're wondering, why would somebody do something like that? But as Mr. Folks rightfully said, it's for them to be popular because that is it is their time. We had our time, right? Mr. Folks speak about the pornography. We had pornography in our time, but it was in the form of books. Then it moved to VHS cassette. No, it's at their fingertip, right? It's at their fingertips. So we have the same problems, but it's just in a different era, right? We cannot throw away the technology. We have to embrace the technology, right? What we are seeing happening, or the incident, I'm going to speak of the incident that has happened for the last couple of weeks, the incidents that we're seeing. And mind you, Mr. Folks, we have to agree that we are only seeing these incidents because of the social media. We've had cases before, this has happened before. We had fights before and so forth. In our time, we just didn't used to use a weapon, but we had fights growing up, but we're seeing it now because of social media, right? Now, and this is my personal view, this is my view. I have said to a number of police officers that what is happening in the town of St. George's now, the police force has allowed it to happen. Why do I say that? On the bus terminus, we have no loitering signs. There's a police station on the bus terminus. But the most loitering, the most deviant set of behaviors happens on that bus terminus. As a parent, as a teacher, we knew about the situation behind Andal Building and NIS. For years it has been happening. And it has been, they have allowed it to happen, to be very honest. I often tell my students, St. George's or Republic Bank is the only bank in the world where you can find people liming in front of a bank. Students, to be specific. We have allowed it to happen. So what we see happen, the altercation between the young man and the police, which I'm not in no way condoning. Now, after you've left them to do that for 15 years, you come now and you're trying to curve it. And they're saying to you, in a sense, well, I've been doing that for my years now. Why now you want to come and chase me home? We have allowed the situation to go on for too long. And to the point where the students figure that I've been doing it for years now. Why no? You're telling me don't lime in St. George's? Why are you telling me not to go on the bus? Because I've said that. I personally told some other officers that the focus now on the police with the police force in St. George's is on traffic. Is on traffic. For during the lockdown, we know that students are supposed to be in school as a teacher. I am venturing down and passing in Grenada on the beach and so forth, Mr. Bascom. And the amount of students I'm seeing on the beach consuming alcohol and illegal drugs, meaning smoking marijuana, on the beach, on Grenada's beach, during school time, when they should be home, attending classes. No, I don't expect the police force to go into parents' homes and so forth, but control what you can control, what happens in the public arena. So there are a number of factors here, as we said. So it's not just one, we say the technology. We have failure of parents, right? When you attend a PTA meeting in any secondary school now, you hardly see fathers. You see mostly mothers. If, for example, a school as GBSS with 800 plus boys, if PTA meeting has 100 parents, consider that a success. The students are being raised by the device. There's a lack in terms of proper parenting. So we don't only need a program for the students, we also need a program for parents. Because there's a lack of proper parenting. And Mr. Bascom, if you read some of the comments on social media, you can tell that. I want to speak of a point that Mr. Folks would have speak of in terms of the remedy. From Cherry Hill to Brizan has the most empty community centers in Grenada. Community centers with nothing in them. The one in Cherry Hill is empty, there's nothing going on there. The one in Fontenoy, there's nothing going on there. The one in Grand Mall, the one in Mumbai, I think Mumbai has something going on there. Happy Hill, Brizan, and so forth. These community centers are just there, not serving the community. Imagine in a time like I thought, and as I told one of the persons in government, those community centers should have computers, books, and so forth. So students who do not have devices while they were home could have gone to those community centers and log on, come from school and attend class. I think Mr. Folks, you would have tried that. I think a couple of years ago with a couple of members. I think it was Jojo, Beaufort, and where they were doing the SATs.
Yeah.
There are a number of, each village has a number of teachers that you can speak to, that can volunteer to. But instead of that, we have a community centers little across Grenada, and they are just there, just empty. The public library doesn't necessarily have to be a library full of books. Again, the technology, computer. We want the students to go home, yes, but what are they going home to? And Mr. Bascom, I want to say that I am at the national games and I'm seeing a number of young persons there. At the national games, I'm actually in the parking lot of the stadium. There are a number of young people. Yes, we want them to go home, but we have to find things for them to do. So this is not just one problem. There's a number of problems, a number of issues that we are dealing with. Teachers are frustrated, and not only frustrated with students, we are also frustrated with the Ministry of Education, parents, and society as a whole. Right? Because some teachers were not trained to deal with some of these issues. In secondary school, we have marijuana smoking, marijuana selling. We have the problems of Mr. Folks talk about the device, even the type of music, Mr. Bascom, the type of music that these students that they're listening to, and what is the music promoting? We have the emergence of the Trinidad. If you listen to any one of those Trinidad artists, all they promote is sex, drugs, and violence, right? If you notice, just let me draw one more point. If you notice, the last show that was held at Foxin, the majority of persons attending that show were young people. If you follow the type of music that would have been sung at that event, is music that promote violence, sex, drugs, and that is what we have an emergence of right now. So it's not just one problem, Mr. Bascom, it's a number of problems culminating in this issue that we're faced with now.
Okay, a multitude of problems. So a number of points you made, a lot of comments on the board there. I mean, I wish I could share all. You will have to go and check some of those. Some of them agreed, some disagreed as well. But Mr. Folks, just before we went off to Mr. Alexander, Clef Deputy was saying that because you made a very important issue there where some people shared your comments in terms of, well, you know, in terms of their own personal experiences as well. But Mr. Deputy was saying that in my manuscript, I dedicated a chapter on our sojourn at Heinze School, Wharf Boys, he put. Same experience. Class, community, and family name came before competencies. And I think he was referring to the point you made where your experience in, well, then Palmer School and, you know, the whole experience there. But one point I want to refer to that Martin would have raised, it had to do with police and law enforcement. And whether or not, Mr. Forbes, do you think that we need to refine our police department to reflect a change in society? You know, the people we recruit as police officers as well, you know, the whole reformation of our police system to sort of reflect, and when I say reflect, not in the context of what our society looks like, but the things that are now happening in society. Because, you know, as they will say, if the schoolboys see the police officer as someone as they quote, I can lime with on the blocks or lime in with other blocks. He is my pal. I can disrespect him, and you know, and these sort of things. You know, there are things that we need to do, especially when it comes to law enforcement, because it appears that there is a total lack of respect for law enforcement in Grenada. Not just the schoolboys, whether busmen, conductors, whatever we have been seeing, and again, it's only because of social media we have been able to see some of these things.
Mr. Bascom, let me just ask one question, right? When we looked at the juve which took place in the outer parishes, right, and we look at what was the chance of the jab, which they were of the police, obscenities, and in those same jab bans, we had the same children, the same kids that are going to school now. Mm-hmm. So if they are in a ban and adults are cussing the police, and these were the chants that we heard from the jab ban. And in that same jab ban, when we look at the videos, are we seeing the same kids in those bans?
Okay.
So how can we want the kids to do as we say but not as we do? So the disrespect comes from society.
Mm-hmm. So, right? Mr. Folks, yeah, a nice segue for you to respond.
There are a lot of things that was said, and we have to wonder. Let's take the police, for instance. The police come from the society, our society. I have always and continue to believe that police, the recruitment of police is just job number one. The training of police would make the difference. You have to train the police to not to enforce, but to put in place a certain treatment, a certain behavior pattern towards the civilian. Try to remember what I'm saying. The police just come from the civilian group. The police might have come from village X, but was he trained in the village or even in the police to do that compassionate side of things towards the civilian? No. So the training of police should not be only military, physical, shooting gun. It has to be, it just must be one where involve a human relations and how do we, as quote unquote the government, the police force wants you to deal with individuals, with the public. Because listen to what I'm saying. The police that came out from Fontenoy or Apretut or whatever, he come and he get physical training and he go on the law. But did he know how to deal with the ordinary man who might have just lost his cool momentarily? He, the police, lose his cool also. So I am saying that the training of the police, because you have more and more police or police assistants in the public now than ever before. And this police has to be, quote unquote, not an aggressive factor, but not just neutral, but one that would tamper down confusion, one that would simmer down it. And that has to be, that is not part of the training. Trust what I'm telling you. It is not part of the training. In the prison, that has to be part of the training. And it was not really part of the training. You know, it is not on the books. Because the police very often meet situation where you want to calm it down, where you want to bring it down back to normal. Yes, you had the power, you could arrest, you could do that. But at the end of the day, I just go to magistrate and send somebody else in Ram jail. So I think definitely the aspect of reconciliatory training has to be an added part of policing.
Mm-hmm. And I want to go in now to the whole issue of the, well, sports and, you know, more involved in sports. By the way, Mr. Folks, I should have mentioned in the start of our program, I had intention of doing that, but I say somewhere I will try to do it because you would have had some level of interaction with the late Flyers, Ian Redhead, who passed away yesterday. That's Flyers Redhead, lately of the Tackle magazine. Certainly, you will want to express your condolences to Ian Flyers Redhead and family as well.
Yes, I will take this opportunity to send out my condolences from the family and I, from Fontenoy United, from the whole village, Flyers, you know. When you see quote unquote people that age dying like that, yes, he might have been ailing for a while, but at the end of the day, death is so permanent, you know. On behalf of all those that I'm so close with, whether it's Fontenoy United Club, whether it's Pauline was very close, she from downtown with them, you know. And I just want to convey that to his family, his brothers, his sisters, all those who are family. It's very difficult to get accustomed with someone passing. Very, especially when you knew the person, when you know the thing. It's very, it's life, but it's very difficult. You know, it's very difficult. I'll tell you something that happened to me the other day. I have a sister who died about Maureen. She was younger than I am. And Maureen died about 8, 10 years ago, thereabout. And it was her birthday. And then one of my sisters told me, you know, today would have been Maureen's birthday. Who tell her say that? I just break down crying. And I tell you, crying uncontrollable. It was my younger sister. And she died so long. But I just cannot get accustomed to death, especially when reminded of it. It's very difficult. So the situation with Flyers, yeah, I want to express condolences on behalf of not just family, but the club. He was a sportsman. He was everything.
Yeah,
That is life.
certainly. Just some comments there because I want you to react to it. Toro Deputy is saying the schoolboy was bigging up his chest for the police the other day. A set of adults was standing around giggling and taking cell phone video. None had the presence of mind to call out to the young man and try to calm him down or even take him away. We cannot blame the youth or police alone. Roger Duncan adds that schools need a better gender balance of teachers, as homes need fathers. Schools need male teachers. A lot of socializing has now gone virtual, and a lot of the societal ills now originate from there. There are no mechanism for managing conflicts online. What I found to be interesting is that students are unable to handle conflicts. Years ago, when you get teased or given a nickname, you handle it as a student by giving back chats. Margaret Francis is saying, no, it will not be part of the training because historically the role of police was to protect the ruling class. That was and remains the mindset of policing. Certainly some comments there for you, Mr. Folks, but as indicated, it appears, as they're saying, it's not just, well, Tory in particular is saying that it's not just a youth problem alone, or youth or police problem alone, I should say, but it's a societal problem because there you had people standing around giving commentary. In fact, there was another video of two guys, 15 and 17-year-olds, as I was told, ultimately, basically hitting an elderly with a cutlass. And it was probably torture for at least 4 minutes of video. And, someone have to be recording that. And at no point in time there seemed to be an intervention or anything like that. I mean, it's unbearable watching this 4 minutes of torture, and only to find it was a 15 and a 17-year-old basically torturing this elderly. What has gone wrong? I mean, yes, again, we say social media, how many likes and how many, people will be able, how many views you can get. So people pull out their cell phone, their device, and tend to record rather than intervene.
Well, intervening sometimes could be dangerous to yourself according to the environment.
Environment, yeah.
Yeah, according to the environment, according to how, for instance, somebody with a cutlass, real angry, and threatening someone. You have to stay at a distance to start speaking to that person. You follow? But I'll tell you something, Bascom and Martin. Still in this beautiful place we call Grenada, 4 square foot in the Caribbean, there's nowhere else as peaceful.
Let's see your face. Let's see your face again.
Yeah, I'm saying is that as much as we want to keep it quote unquote perfect, in this beautiful place in the Caribbean, there is no piece of land as peaceful as we are. You look at Trinidad and you look at the murder rate and the death tolls and the whatnot, it's chalk and cheese. I'm not saying that because we are, quote unquote, that controlled, that we don't have to do better. I want us to do better. I want us to zero. But you look at all the crime in Grenada, and they are 9 out of 10 times passionate crimes. You know, a man and a woman have a problem, so and so, some family issue. But the kind of banditry of going and kill somebody because you go to thief them or whatnot, that is a rarity in Grenada, very much a rarity. And I'm not saying that we still don't have to crack down on crime, but I still believe a new methodology has to be put in place as far as police training is concerned. What I knew of police training, quite a bit of it, as I said, it was militarized, as that. Learning to shoot, you have to do all that. We have to learn that. But you cannot take for granted that the person coming out Point River Road, Mongrambi, or wherever, he has that social know-how, how to calm down a real vexed person, how to win over these people. And a lot of the training now should be not based on that, but that has to be stepped up. That police would eventually have that social know-how, how to calm somebody down, how to get them off or that anger, how to do this, how to do that. Because Grenada still remain, and I want to reiterate it, still remain one of the most peaceful piece of rock on earth, but we had to still become better.
Yeah, the whole issue of conflict resolution, it appears to be lacking in some respect. And I know in some careers, some jobs, conflict resolution is ongoing training, probably every 3 6 months. You have to engage in those things because, that's how the nature of the job is, because especially where you are engaging and interacting with people on almost a daily basis, the whole issue of conflict resolution is important because you never know when you'll come across someone, as you say, who is angry. And likewise, you may be recording, as you say, someone, as in that case, they're recording someone, torturing someone. Well, in that case, I use the word torture because that's the only thing I can come up with. Whether or not the person agreed to do it, or whether or not somebody may be angry about you doing it. These are the sort of things. So, it could be that they know that the person is doing it, or two, that they don't like the person doing it, so they'll take offense to that. Before you knew, policemen didn't like people recording, them, arresting someone and things like that. They consider it as, hindering, an operation. Now with a policeman with a body cam, for example, there's no excuse because he needs that. Once you have a body cam, it has to be on and it has to be recording, so there's no excuse for, recording. But Mr. Folks, the whole issue of now, how can our national sports federations, our community sporting organizations, and et cetera, be more proactive, getting our young people more involved, having activities that can engage our young people. Martin said, for example, some of the community centers that are not in use. I recall when you were very active in the Fontenoy era, the use of the community center for the SAT, and these sort of things. How can people start engaging our young people? Albeit we don't have things like library, a national library or community libraries. Well, whether or not, even if you have it, whether or not that would be interest to young people to go and sit down in a library and read, whereas they can just pull up something on their mobile device. Again, technology and its advantages. How we can get these organizations, sporting organizations, and engaging our young people in activities that can steer them away from this deviant behavior.
Well, I don't know if it's a generational change but you find more
I'm,
and more,
I'm not seeing
unfortunately.
your, yeah, I'm not seeing your entire face. Just if you can go back a bit. Right.
Yeah, let
Yeah.
me see that.
Yeah.
That's one, all right?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. You find more, and I was saying, I do not know if it's a generational change, but more and more people in the community are withdrawing from community effort. The community is becoming more and more selfish. And when I say selfish, it's more self-oriented. It's because I might say that the average person who spends quite a bit of time in the community and not with his family at home or wherever is compromising to some extent his family. You know, and I say so because I have lived in it. My whole life is about the community, but I was able to marry both of them, the community and the family, because the family is the community and the community is the family. The communities are getting, should I say, more and more selfish, more and more self-opinionated and self-centered. And when I say self, I talk about the family and whatnot. It is not the same of having these recreational activities that we used to have in the community, where everybody in the community or most people in the community get involved. Look and tell me which community you see that people go out and play together. When I was growing up, men, woman, and child used to be playing rounders and different things. Big people playing it, big people participating. You wouldn't see that now. So we have to find in this day and age where we have a million cars in this 2x2 country, Lord, is another story. People becoming more and more selfish. As people, the contradiction or the opposite of community is individual, individualizing things. And this is something I observe in the community, that ownership of the means, as they were saying in the revolution, the means of the production and the means of this or the means of that, brings less community activity. Trust me, people participating in the community and people participating in that. It's a challenge that we have. It's really and truly a challenge that we have in relation to how do we bring the community or the activities in the community to the community. I find more and more we own the means of production and we own the niceties from it, and we just don't find time for the community anymore.
Mhm. Okay, Mr. Fox, my final question to you has to do with international politics. It has to do with the ongoing conflict with Russia and Ukraine. And as you know, someone who has been following, and I say that guardedly, I know you try to keep abreast with geopolitics, what has been happening internationally, and especially with the pictures we are seeing especially from Ukraine, well, it's in Ukraine in particular, and the outcry, the Western outcry, the international outcry, and in addition to the sanctions on Russia and now Belarus, and particularly Russia, who is a major force in world exports. How do you see that trickle down effect, especially for the Caribbean and Grenada, in probably the next few weeks or few months, if there isn't early resolution to that crisis in Ukraine? The economic factors we've seen, oil prices and all these things already taking a hit in North America and other places. But some way or the other, we expect the Caribbean to feel that effect. What's your sense of how we should prepare for such?
First of all, Russia and Ukraine.
And before you start, Mr. Fox, I want to see your face again. I want to
I
make
don't
sure
know
I see
where
your
you're
face.
going.
Yeah, you're coming up too close there, and then I think I've seen
Tell
a
me
bit
what.
I'm seeing some light in the background, so we sort of dark.
Okay, all right, good. So turn off the light in the
Yeah,
background. Hold on.
yeah, I think that was right. That should be it now. Yeah,
All right.
and you're good there now. Yeah.
All right, good. Russia and Ukraine, the honest truth is, I hardly look at it. It it cranks me up. It angers me. It just sometimes I just chill out. I close off from the news because it's so unfair. But then when I watch America, place where I'm going to be a citizen of not too long, when I listen to them, I ask America, what is the difference between Israel and the Palestinians and Russia and Ukraine? You support Israel against the Palestinian that annexing this place in the Palestinian. Have the Palestinian people as second class. But you're talking out against Russia in Ukraine. You know, this is the hypocrisy of the world. Now, I'm so angry as to what has happened. And I just find Putin has to be a crazy man. It is like you have your neighbor living next door. Maybe an election is just around the corner. But your neighbor would vote, or you think the neighbor would vote for a party that's not your party. And you want to go and fix the neighbor physically to vote your way. And I find it so, because I ask the question, I always ask the question, if Russia didn't have something big to hide, what is the problem if Ukraine joined NATO? That's what the big issue is, you know. Ukraine look as though he in bed with NATO. So are you expecting World War III? Are you expecting another World War? That you don't want somebody, an independent country, quote unquote, independent country, to choose what system of government they want? You know, it is so very difficult to understand and very difficult to explain. I hate to say, I've been in war before. I've been in war where bullets were firing, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I've been in war. And I don't like people dying in war, because all the people who have died in war, they left families mourning and whatnot. If you choose to go and fight and whatnot and you die, that's one, but the loss the family will be getting. But when I look and I saw this general from the Russian army got shot down, in a way, in almost a barbaric way, I celebrated. But when I look back, he's a human being and he would have family. So you had to feel, I kind of take back the celebration. But God knows how I want Ukraine to overcome that without much losses. And I do believe that Putin will calculate, because the way the Ukrainians and them are going, they're going to, even if Russia think they're occupied, you don't want to live in a country where you have guerrilla warfare, where they're taking down this and they're taking down that. But it is one of those things. I still don't understand it. That if everybody neighboring Russia has to be in sync, like the Soviet Union, with the Russian philosophy, then, you know, the world, something happened to the world, you know. So against that background, I'm not just angry, I'm at a loss. that at this time in the world, a power could dominate somebody. And don't misunderstand it. Though. You believe Grenada was saying they're going left and they're going this. America invade us. Yeah, they invade us because and the first thing they do is to turn us back, turn back the revolution from where we've been going. Nice. Venezuela, look at it. Maduro and them, the sanctions squeeze them because all what they want, and they tried peacefully, and not only peacefully, democratically. They won the election and they decided going in that direction. You believe Mexico could say going left or going this or going that? So the powers that be, whether it is the United States or Russia, they are very, very unfair and domineering towards their neighbor. You know, sometimes I say as though they have something to hide. But it is very unfair to Ukraine. And then I don't know how Belarus and them come in that aspect of it. You know. But having said all that, I keep my fingers crossed and wish Ukraine without much losses of lives. Because whether you are a soldier, whether you are what, you have a family. And we all have to die. We all have to die. But the loss to the family is, you know, is just too much sometimes to bear.
Mm-hmm. And what's about the Caribbean, the effects, the repercussions for places like Grenada and others in the Caribbean in terms of, imports and, all these sort of things? The global economic.
The honest truth is, it will take a long time to trickle down to the Caribbean. Nice. It is not really an oil producing country that we get oil from, or we get that. Eventually embargoes and different things would cost us. And we are not an independent people, because you hardly have any country in the world that is truly independent. You are dependent on something else, on somebody else for doing this and doing that and doing that. If America want to go full scale into that, the American people and all the neighbors would suffer as a result, because they're going to be embargoes and this and embargoes and that, and this won't be able to happen. So all for now, the Biden administration giving the support without getting involved. But if you ask me, I think the Russian prime minister, he had to be out of here. He kind of crazy in a way. And I just hope that doesn't escalate into another world war.
I have two things to wrap up with you. I mean, you might laugh when you get them, but I'll take one and then the other one, both from the same person, your good friend, Toro Depudine. The first one has to do with, I also understand that Ram will be a candidate in Grenada's upcoming general election. I would like to know if it's true and which party he will be running for.
It's not true. Let me start. It is not true. All right. My family always thought or always think there is no way Ashley Ram folks should run for election, because he's going to be a sacrificial lamb. If when he wins, he'll give away everything. I don't think I'll give away everything. But in any community in Grenada you go, anyone, you would see people who are really, really, really needy, who are really in need, and my life has been that. My life has been, I pray to God every night to get the means to help people, to help more people. Let's put it like that. So there's no way my wife and the children and them will want me to run for politics. No. I am not the type who want anything. I'm comfortable, yeah? Very comfortable. So if I had to go and run for politics, is to able to help more people. I pray to God to win millions of dollars in the American lottery, to help people. God knows, to help more people, to send more poor people, children to school, to make sure that this person with that amount of children the children have a better life. That is all about me. But if you check my means, I could live comfortable until death. Yeah, comfortable until death. But I'm not comfortable with that. I'm seeing a lot of people who are in need. And it's against that background that whatever would better the lives of a lot of the ordinary people, I would want to contribute towards that. But running for election, maybe I'm 30 years beyond that. Maybe.
All right. And the final one. Bascom, don't let Ram leave until he tells us when he's refunding Carnage United FC for the transfer fee we paid for today to get Yankee Man to come back home to the wharf. That always comes up, right? That always comes up.
I like them. I like them. It's so we are one people.
I know.
Let me tell you the compromise. The compromise is, I believe, no, as much as I would have bring Grenada into more than one Shield Cup final, I would have won this, I would have hopefully changed the landscape of Grenada football. Over the last 3-4 years where I've been out of football, I have lived and studied football. And I believe, maybe I'm crazy, I believe I'm much better now of whether it's management of a team, coaching a team, than I was when I was doing it. And any community, I challenging any community, as long as they want to train. If they want a coach, and Ram Fox is the person, I can bring them forward leaps and bounds. If there is any team, as long as they want to train, that has been in the lower division and cannot get promoted or not getting promoted, I could take them on and get them promoted. That is the confidence I have in what I could do or what I'm doing. Any team, and you have to remember, I used to live Fontenoy, leave Point, and go in River Sally to coach Hard Rock, Latas at the time. And I remember Spaceman used to offer me bus money. I say, or gas. I say, you're crazy? I never took a cent for transport or whatever. And I used to go up there on a regular basis. I remember when they got promoted, Fontenoy won the Premier Division, and Thing won, they got promoted. So I had 2 championships under my belt in one season. Ask me how I used to coach Fontenoy and coach Hard Rock at the same time, in the same season. Fontenoy, I used to coach them a lot on mornings. We get up and we go on the beach and we go on this and we go on that. And I shuttle the days. And if I feel Hard Rock had a game that is crucial, I'll give them the 3 or 4 days for the week. And I take the next 3 days of Fontenoy. And I was successful. I won 2 championships on that thing. And I'm ready for anybody, any team that feels they get stagnated. As long as they want to change, I could bring a change.
Mm-hmm. Well, your friend Gordon Boney Julian, you say, hey Ram, this is Beige from the Pentecostal Church in Market Hill. It's still looking good. Toro asked Ram why they threw Saga overboard after losing a soft shoe game in Tantine. And Ram, there is something that I meant to ask you about. It had to do with you when you were president of the Grenada Football Association many years ago. in terms of mortgaging your house to pay for national team participation in regional and international competition. By the way, have you been repaid yet? Is your house still on mortgage? And is your wife still in anger over that move?
Well, I'll tell you what. It was a situation where Jack Warner wanted to dominate and upthink everybody. And on the field of play, we qualified for the Shell Cup final, which was in Jamaica. So Jack Warner refused for Grenada to get any money whatsoever. And I financed the team. I financed the training. I financed the passages. We talk about hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to Jamaica, because I wanted to show him I could do it. But what has happened? My family was outraged by it. How are you going to get back your money? Blah, blah, blah. So what Jack did, he tried a vote of no confidence against me and failed. Nobody could have beat me when it comes to presidency. Don't forget that. Because I used to pay for the team to do this, pay for the team to do that, do that. And it's a few $100,000 the team took. I did not go to Jamaica with the team because my family feared that something could happen. If they can't get you out that way, they could take you out. So I financed the team, hundreds of thousands, paying for the team, paying and giving every player stipend and whatnot, paying for the passages. And the team went and did well. As a matter of fact, Nixon was captain and the coach at that time because he and I had trained the team to reach there. I would have worked with that team to reach Shell Cup final in Trinidad, in Barbados. So that kind of winning formula that we had, I couldn't allow us or allow Jack to sabotage the team. So I invested that kind of money. I put that kind of money in order that the team should go and play and the players participate. My family thought I was crazy, blah, 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 but say what? You know it is.
Okay. Hopefully you were repaid. I know it, it took a while, but I know it
took a while. It took a while, but
yeah, good sense prevailed. That's good to know. Thanks very much. Lincoln Deputy say, be careful what you say about Uncle Jack. For me, he's the bravest, greatest sports administrator to come out of the Caribbean. He went to FIFA and shake up the place and take a little tick too, but he share it up.
Wait, let me say, I agree with him. Let me tell you something. What Jack wanted to do is to rule every association. But I must say, I admire Jack. When you go to the FIFA meetings and everything, and you see this little black boy, and he had his say, and he's a very strong personality. But when he came to the Caribbean now, he also wanted to run every association. And you, like Ram, is no little pawn. So he had a lot of pawns in the islands, and Ram wasn't a pawn. And he couldn't handle that. But he never knew how much I admired him when I watch him in Switzerland and I watch him in them kind of areas, you know, how he operates. Nice. Jack is one of the guys, I have never seen a human being like that. Jack is an encyclopedia. Jack, you see what we have as iPad and things like that? Jack brain is that, you know. Jack goes to a meeting. I fighting to take notes. Blah, 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 blah. I fighting, I taking there, doing that. I taking notes. Bam, shorthand, I taking notes. And Jack sit down there. When you hear Jack ready to ask question or question you on what you see, it's everything that you would have said, you know. That level of kind of intelligence or whatever he had. Jack, he's a bandit without a doubt. He was corrupt without a doubt. But intelligence, Jack Warner, yeah, man.
Yeah. And knowing for a fact, I think it was Grenada who initially made the recommendation, what they say, the recommendation for Jack. Was it for, either CFU CONCACAF or FIFA, something in some meeting.
Yeah. The second, when I was there,
was the second.
One to say Jack Warner, regardless of what he tried against me, I saw him as a black man that represented the black race at the highest level, call it mafia, call it what, of the white folks. And they respected him. He would have full his pocket. But when it came to representation of the region, yeah, I thought he was extremely good. Trust me.
What has become a question? What has become of Whitaker? Whitaker, who played for Fontenoy back in those days. That was a question that came up there.
Whitaker, for whatever reason, would have what we just call fall apart. I haven't seen him for a while. And I want to just make this public statement here. I would have had COVID already. I'm presently in Grenada. I couldn't stay in the United States. I find I was just hiding. When I tell you hiding, I wake up one morning, I go to the dining table, I play chess and I play draft and I play that. And then the next thing I do, I had to go back and sleep at 1 o'clock in the night. I go in no way. I'm not going outside. And as we said earlier on, I was in prison. I was a prisoner in Richmond Hill prison before. But that imprisonment in New York was worse than thing. It was worse. So I couldn't help but just come back in Grenada and chill out. Where I could watch the sea, I could watch that, I could maybe make a little run here and there, So to answer the question, I haven't seen him for a while because I'm not seeing anybody. Not much people see me. And I don't see anybody, but I know I'm in Grenada. And I enjoy every minute. I go to the sea once in a while. And so I'm not outwardly seeing people or knowing people. I haven't seen him for a while. Not many people have seen me neither.
And that probably may answer Toro's question about you getting involved in politics and being a candidate. Because
not tell him I said thanks very much. And as I said, as I implied, I didn't say it. My family would never want me because they feel by now I will give away the house. I will give away.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure chatting with you. And certainly I think you would have provided quite a bit, for the folks who have stayed around to hear you. To hear you and give your opinion. I hopefully it won't take another 2 years, for you to be back to talk about it. And hope to see you back on the mainland US sometime in the very near future.
In the very near future, but I want to thank all the listeners, those who made comments, those who didn't make comments. Thank all the listeners, to keep the show going because, it's basically a community thing. And I really want to say, I hope I basically came across to you and to your loved ones in a manner respectful. And otherwise, even though sometimes you mightn't like what I'm saying, but that's who I am. So thank you very much to all the listeners, and Basque, thanks a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mr. Folks.
Enough respect.
Okay then, right. All right, folks. So that's it. Mr. Ram Folks, live in St. George's, well, Fontenoy to be exact, his home, very dear home. And, Mr. Folks always provide us with insights and, quite a number of folks, very interactive. If you go back and check the comments, I know a lot of things that Mr. Folks said. Some agree, some disagree, but that's the way it is. I'm looking forward to launch WAF FM. Oh, okay, yeah. All right. So thank you very much to Toro and Clev and Edwin and the host of folks who have been providing comments there. Margaret and others. Rennie Greenwich, thank you very much. And hey, Roll. I'm certain that's Royal Titus. Mr. Folks probably will want to see you back there as well, and the Fontenoy crew who have been on as well. As they would say, your homeboy was on and definitely provided quite a bit for us to go on. It's lots of work to be done, and as the folks says, it's time that we get things to do. And we spoke about not just the youth in crisis, as we will say, when we talk about the police, we talk about the prison structure, as he said, you know, the whole issue of flogging. I didn't even realize that, you know, they had this thing where sentence a guy and 6 strokes or whatever it is like that. So the folks said, hey, gone are those days, you know, as some of the comments on the feed also says, you know, it reminds them a lot about slavery. You know, where else you hear and see these things about the flogging, probably in probably the Arab countries or whatever it is where they do those, Saudi Arabia and those places. So, but thank you very much, folks, for being part of our program. The program came live to you from Williston in North Dakota, which is just about an hour away from what I understood from the Canadian border, on the far side though. 5 hours from Winnipeg, from here, and many hours from Toronto. So even though you say Canada and the border, it's quite a bit from there. So folks, looking forward to being part of the program again, hopefully on Thursday or next Saturday. You know, it depends, because I don't know again which part I will be, but you know, it depends on the deployment, yeah, and where they sent me and where I am located. But I'm hoping to hook up with you again for another program. Whatever you can do to support sports, please do. The National Championship honored the Grenada at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium in Grenada, so you can go there and support. Remember, there's Test cricket coming up later this month in Grenada, West Indies versus England in the Test series. And there's also local cricket ongoing in St. Andrew. There is the T20 Championship. The St. Andrews Cricket Council organized T20 Championship, and host of other sporting activities. See how we can continue to engage our young people, support them as well, because some of them are participating. So if we can show support, it's also encouraging. Please do go out and support our young people. And whatever you can do to assist our young people, please do likewise. Thank you very much, all the folks, for being part of our program. As soon as this program is finished, certainly I have to go and, you know, continue my discussion with Mr. Ram, folks. You know, have to hear what he has to say on certain things. Oh, Edwin Sam, thank you very much for the final score. Is that the final score? Manchester United 2 and Spurs 1. That'll be some good news for some of the United fans. Not good news for them. So, you know, in the run-up. Evelyn Jones, thank you very much. Lorna Bain, thank you again. And Bonnie, thank you. I'm recruiting Ram to coach the new Carnage United. Some say they are uncoachable. Toro Ram can handle them. Yes, Toro. I saw something there for Ram also where I think it was Northerners. Someone from Northerners said, Ram, please come and help us out. So there's an appeal from Northerners, and here is Toro saying, recruited Ram for the new Carnage United. So it's not the final score. It's 70 minutes on. Manchester United leading Spurs 2-1, right? 2-1. Is that what I saw there? Yeah, 2-1. Yeah. Thank you very much, folks. And see you on the program in probably the next few days, where we'll hopefully look to discuss more, and probably, hopefully on a positive note, you know, not the type of discussion we like to have, but it's one that is begging for some sort of intervention. And it was a pleasure bringing Mr. Folks on to talk about that. And hopefully our next program, we can look at some of the sporting activities happening. Thank you very much once again. Have yourself a pleasant weekend.